There are two things that you are saying in the same sentence that just says it screams red flag to me, and that's preferred return, value add. And I see that so often where, and the sponsor's never done it before. He thinks he's got this great value add proposition and he's going to tell his investors, I'm going to give you a preferred return. I don't want a preferred return on a value add. Plow the money back into the property and turn that thing as fast as you can, because you will never, ever beat the return of the cap rate from a preferred return, 9% preferred return. Get drive that NOI as fast as you can, and either refinance it, get out, or sell it. But that when I hear that, I think, oh no, that's not how it works.
It's not a cash flow play.
Exactly. Yeah. You get two types of plays. You got a cash flow play or you got a capital appreciation play, and you can't have both. You could eventually, but not at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah, especially, and the thing is, I don't know enough about industrial flex properties, to speak to the cap rates and on those types of assets. But multifamily, like I said, value add, preferred return, red flag.
Right. Yeah. Don't sell it as cash flow if that's not exactly the plan, right? Yeah. You shouldn't be communicating anything about, you shouldn't be stressing that cash flow piece. And it was from my perception, it was a little bit of rose-colored glasses, if you will, about, hey, we're going to start seeing cash flow as well pretty early on. So
you kind of, the whole point, I kind of teased your talk at the beginning regarding the type of property that you are an expert at over me, and that's triple net leases, right?
Sure.
Okay, so how did you go? Have you ever been in multifamily, or have you always been on the industrial, commercial, triple net lease type of deals?
I've invested personally as an LP in a multifamily deal before. So it's actually only one. I've kind of always enjoyed looking at different asset classes, but I know a lot of investors I work with and folks I know just in the industry go, hey, I'm 100% in multifamily, and some people spread it around a little bit more to different asset classes. But you're right. You kind of have to take a look at a few deals at least, if not dozens, to really get a good feel for, hey, where do cap rates trade at in these different asset classes and in different marketplaces? So yeah, it's tough to transition pretty quickly. But yes, I mean, just to use, a multi-family deal or even that multi-tenanted industrial flex property as an example in comparison to what we do, they're vastly different, right? And that cash flow and risk profile are vastly different. So, just to kind of start with what we specialize in, we really look to do single tenant, triple net leased industrial properties. So, and primarily, just to dive in a little bit more specific, we primarily do sale leaseback transactions to acquire these. So we are purchasing a property from a owner-occupied building and simultaneously leasing it back to this seller/tenant, in this case, for a long-term, usually 15 or 20-year triple net or absolute triple net lease. And so
let's go through the terms.
Sure.
Explain what triple net is and explain what absolute triple net is.
Sure. So you may hear of a net, double net, or even triple net properties, and there are varying degrees of how much a tenant is responsible for on a lease, right? So generally on a triple net lease, you'll hear about these types of properties a lot. It may be a Walgreens or a Home Depot. Oftentimes is a single tenant property, and because it's hard to do that with a multi-tenanted property, right? Who's responsible for the roof? That's a little tough. You got 5 tenants under the same roof, right? So in this case, it's much easier to structure that. And what that means is the tenant is responsible for taxes, insurance, and utilities. But really, when you get to this, sorry, you wanted to pause me here.
So those are the 3 ends.
Yes, and it can depend a little bit. Sometimes that one of those ends may be maintenance instead of utilities, but really at least taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Okay. And when you get to absolute triple net, now you're saying, hey, the landlord is virtually responsible for nothing. So that means the tenant is now responsible for structure and roof mechanical, which is referring to, HVAC systems.
Yeah.
So all the structure and roof really being the big ones here, right? Because you got a 500,000 square foot industrial property, and that's quite the expensive roof to replace, or any large property, right? So that's a huge attraction to this type of investment as a landlord, because we're able to be much more passive in the management of the property, right? And so, not to mention the lack of expenses. We're removing all of the operational risk that's around an investment in this property, right? There's no risk around how well a sponsor or landlord renovates a property or manages expenses as they do maintenance and repairs and upkeeps the property, or, in the case of a value add, how well and efficient they perform that. In this case, you've removed all of that, right? And so you don't have to look at your cash flow and wonder what that fluctuation from quarter to quarter will be, depending on, your expenses being up or down on a given quarter.